The Quran is a miracle for the most unscientific reason. Because it transforms lives. To this day, there are people they'll be the last person you would think would be a Muslim. The last person on the face of this earth. One of my best friends in the world, his name is Abdullah, his original name is Mike. He was a neo-Nazi. Tattoos all over his body. He's memorizing Quran right now. He was actually he was up there, and he's actually talking to a couple of gangs in New York State prisons, and talking to them about Islam, some of the head leaders of the white supremacist crew, because they're old friends. Last person you would imagine would be a Muslim. And he's one of my best friends, and by the way, he married a black woman, by the way. And yeah, and they have 4 kids. Yeah, subhanallah. And this man, you know how he became Muslim? He says, one day I had a fight with my mother, I punched her in the head, I got really mad at myself, so I had to find somewhere to go where the cops wouldn't look for me, so I went to the library. And I couldn't find anything, I had to make myself look normal, so I picked up a book, and it happened to be the Quran. And I wasn't reading it, it was reading me. That's what he says. I wasn't reading it, it was reading me. And he took the Shahada in the library. SubhanAllah. The most weirdest experiences people have. When they read the Quran, it just completely transforms their lives. My daughters go to an Islamic kindergarten, preschool. I started it, I was the principal first. But I quit when we found a suitable replacement. The replacement is a woman. She's Japanese. She was born in Japan, she migrated here. And she was a very high-power executive downtown. She used to work on Wall Street. And you know how they have those vendors in Wall Street that sell like shawarmas and stuff like that? We call them chicken guys, right? So she was at one of those, and the guy was blasting like recitation of Quran. And she goes, "That's really interesting music. Where do you get that?" And the guy said, "Actually, I can tell you where to go." He pointed her to Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, where she ended up in a store, and they gave her a copy of the Quran, and she read it, and she took Shahada the next day, and her 2 sons are memorizing Quran, and she's the principal of an Islamic school now, right? The most unlikely people that you would think. No conversion, no preaching, nobody went to them and say, accept this or you're doomed. Nothing. They just went and read the Quran. And you know what's the craziest thing? After 9/11, there was a spike in conversions of people that out of curiosity started buying the copy of the Quran from Barnes & Noble. And this is not even the miraculous Arabic Quran. This is English translation of Quran. And people are just out of curiosity, what is this terrorist document? And they're reading it and they're finding, how can I miss this? I just met last week, I was in Atlanta. There was a convention there in Atlanta. And I met a young man, younger than me at least. He was... Now get this, his original name is Joshua, now his name is Yusha. He's originally Irish. He was studying Orthodox Christianity, studying to become a scholar. He was studying Hebrew, Aramaic, he was studying the ancient language, Latin even, to study the Bible in its original texts. And he heard a sermon one day about Islam and how it's an evil religion, right? And he thought to himself, after all the Bible I've studied, I can't think the Bible is the truth. But one thing's for sure, of all the other religions I'm going to explore, Islam will never be one of them, because it's an evil faith. He wasn't convinced of the Bible. The more he studied it, the less convinced he became. And then finally one day, the funny thing is, he was studying at a church. The wall to the masjid is about a foot apart. He was studying at this place. And he used to park his car in the masjid, at the mosque, and then go to church. For 10 years he was doing this, since he was an early teen. And then one day somebody saw him and said, "Hey, the Friday prayer is going on," because he was going on Friday to church to speak to his priest. And they didn't know that he's not a Muslim, because he's parking in the mosque parking lot. So he said, "Okay, whatever, I'll check it out." He goes in, listens to the sermon, takes Shahada, becomes a Muslim. So this, to me at least in our times, the strangest stories of people in the Western world. People that you would never have imagined coming to Islam. This is probably, to me at least, the greatest miracle in the Quran. the most profound miracle of the Quran. This is one you can't argue away from anyone, because they've experienced it themselves personally. They've personally experienced it themselves.